Hey everybody, welcome back. Today it is time for my monthly wrap-up. I will be doing both my August and September wrap-up in this video, as I didn't get a chance to fill an August wrap-up in September because of my move. Also, I will be splitting it up into two parts. I will be doing the books and novels that I read in August and September, and then part 2 will be the comic books and graphic novels that I read in August and September. In addition to these books, I also read 7 books for the BookTubeathon in August, which I did do a wrap-up video for, and I will leave that link down below in the description. The first book I read was An Uncertain Choice by Jody Hedlund, which I gave a 4-star rating to. An Uncertain Choice is about Lady Rosemary, who is facing a future in the convent because of a vow her parents made when she was a child. However, a trusted friend of her father's shows up with an alternative. If she can get married before the eve of her 18th birthday, then she will be free from living a cloistered life. She is then presented with 3 possible suitors, and these 3 noble knights compete for her heart. However, the competition for her heart turns dangerous, as the knight who she is falling for is under suspicion of attempted murders on the other knights. This book was a light and fluffy read. It wasn't a whole lot of substance to the book, but it was that beautiful medieval romance that I love. It is also a guaranteed clean read, which I'm very grateful for because I don't find a lot of medieval romances to be clean. So I was really excited to have the history setting that I wanted, the cleanliness factor, and the good cheesy romance factor, and it definitely was a fluffy read. The next book I picked up was Starring Me by Krista McGee, and most of you know that I am a huge Krista McGee fan. I thoroughly enjoy her Anomaly trilogy, which is her dystopian fiction, but I've also really discovered that I enjoy her contemporary. I found Krista McGee's contemporaries to be lighthearted as well, with enough substance in it, but doesn't get overwhelmingly and preachy. Starring Me features Kara McCormick, who we met in First Date. Kara has tried out and is competing in what seems to be a reality TV show for a spot for an actress on a new teen variety show. Kara feels that God is tugging on her heart and leading her closer and closer to Him, as He is placing people in her life to encourage, pray for, and talk to her. I loved Kara's character in First Date, and I was really excited to have Krista carry forward Kara's story. It's really Krista McGee's side characters whom I enjoyed the most. There was one character in the book who sadly I have forgotten her name, but she was my favorite. I would say that would probably be me in the future. She was this eccentric, fun, godly woman who was an avid reader. None of the girls understood her Austen or Tolkien references, but there's even moments in a chapter where she was discussing the Inklings with the girls, and that made me so happy to have that little bit of a nerd factor in there as well. So I really enjoyed her character. As a Christian fiction, it is not overly preachy and in your face, yet at the same time it drives to the heart of the matter, core issues, and real issues that people will be facing in today's world. And I like how Krista takes that faith and makes it real and applies it to the world that we are living today. This one is also guaranteed a clean read, and I gave it a 5-star rating. Next I read Conspiracy of Blood and Smoke by Anne Blankman. This is the second book in the Prisoner of Night and Fog duology, both of which I gave a 5-star rating to. I'm not going to go too much into it just because it is a sequel. I thoroughly enjoy my World War II historical fiction, and I loved this one. It's got a lot of suspense and action, as well as intrigue. We're trying to solve some mysteries here, and that overall danger of being found out by the Nazis looms over their heads. The characters are great and in-depth, and I found myself investing not only in the main characters, but also in some of the great side characters that were created as well. For content rating, there is a crime ring that is mentioned with a prostitution ring attached to it. It is mentioned, it is not gone into detail about how that is operated or what is happening, but there is knowledge that some of the characters are in the prostitution ring. Along with the crime ring, there is also mention of drugs and a drug ring involved in that. However, again, not into a lot of detail and not a main focus of the book. There is also some kissing, but it doesn't get heated or into any makeout scenes, as they are pretty much on the run the entire time throughout the book. So I would give this a mild content rating. Next, for the Perustopia Book Club on Goodreads, I read Rook by Sharon Cameron. I have done a full review about my thoughts on this book, and which I will leave in the description below for you guys to go check it out. I gave this one a 3-star rating. I wasn't wowed by it. There are moments I did thoroughly enjoy the book, and very few characters that I enjoyed, but a lot for me was lacking the world building and the character development. Rook is an alternative history, and I believe it may be a Scarlet Pimpernel retelling, although I didn't see that mentioned anywhere online or in the live show, but it rings very closely to the story of the Scarlet Pimpernel. I did give a more in-depth content rating. There was a makeout scene, but it was very short-lived, so again, this one would be another mild content rating. The next 3 books I picked up were part of the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I picked up Cinder, which I thoroughly enjoyed and gave a 5-star rating to. Cinder is a cyborg living in New Beijing, and she runs a little mechanic shop to support her stepmother and stepsisters. She is reviled by her stepmother and blamed for the illness of her stepsister. Her life is then entangled with the handsome Prince Kai's life, where she is facing endangerment and an intergalactic struggle. It was a fast-paced, fun read. It is a fairy tale retelling mixed with science fiction, and I didn't think I would really like the fairy tale with science fiction. However, I loved it. It was a great story. I loved the characters. I found myself invested in many of the side characters as well. I love good side characters and how they contribute to main characters, and there was a great character ensemble in this book. I then moved on to Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, and I'm not going to go too much into it. This one I only gave a 3-star rating. I wasn't overly as impressed with it as I was with Cinder. Scarlet follows, of course, Scarlet Benoit, who is searching for her missing grandmother. She gets caught up with a street fighter named Wolf and kind of goes on to there, finding that her grandmother is connected to way more than she thought she was. Again, great ensemble of characters. Wasn't overly impressed with Scarlet herself, and her relationship with Wolf borderlines creepy, which is why this book only got a 3-star rating. I wasn't too impressed with the relationship. Wolf seems really needy, and Scarlet is just kind of going with it because he's there, it seems like. So I wasn't too impressed with the relationship, which is why it got a 3-star rating. For content-wise, there is a couple of makeout scenes. It's still rather mild, yet the almost animalistic sense of Wolf himself makes the relationship creepy, so I would give this one a mild content rating, whereas I would give Cinder a clean content rating. I then moved on to Crest, also by Marissa Meyer, the 3rd book in the Lunar Chronicles, and was just as excited about Crest as I was about Cinder. Again, not going to go too much into detail because it is the sequel in a series, but Crest is the Rapunzel of this entourage. Again, in Crest, there's a great ensemble of characters. I love the relationships between all of them as friends and romantic tension and whatnot, but a great ensemble of characters is really making these books for me. Also, when we were first introduced to Captain Thorne in Scarlet, and then you get to read more about him in Crest, did anybody else think that he reminded you of somebody? Because it was gnawing on my brain during the entire time I'm reading Scarlet, until I got the Crest, and then I realized who he reminded me of. He reminds me, for a dead ringer, of Captain Jack Harkness from Doctor Who. Please somebody else tell me you thought this as well, because that is who I envisioned the entire time I was reading Crest. I did also pick up Ferris, which is the novella of the Lunar Chronicles, but I DNF'd it. I did not like Lovano's story. I did not like this weird seduction game she was playing. I didn't see it necessary to read it, and it was kind of ruining the rest of the books for me, so I DNF'd it. I've left it alone. It is not something I like, and I would not rate it a clean content rating. I would almost give it a moderate content rating just for the weird seduction game that she was playing. But I DNF'd it, and I will not be picking that one up. Then I came to Storm Siren by Mary Weber, which I only gave a 3-star rating to. I was really looking forward to Storm Siren. It looked really good. The cover is just gorgeous, and it made me really excited for what the story was about. I had several people tell me it was really good, so I bought it off of Book Outlet, and I was very disappointed with it. It just wasn't what I was expecting. The world building was really confusing to me. The characters annoyed me the majority of the time, and I just couldn't find myself invested in the story. The story follows Nim, who is a slave girl with a very dangerous past because she is an elemental, and she is a rare elemental at that, making her quite dangerous and special. Her latest master made a bargain with her to keep her alive, to train her to become a weapon to save her kingdom Phelan. Like I said, I was disappointed. I wasn't overly enjoying it, and there was a lot of darkness to it that just seemed too dark, yet like it was trying to be dark. It's very hard for me to describe, but I did not enjoy the darkness of the book and the darkness of one particular character. It just overall creeped me out, and the fact that they had war horses that would eat meat and people terrified me. That was just so disturbing to me. I would also rate this as a moderate content rating, even though I was told it was a clean content rating, because of the insinuations of favor houses or prostitution houses, and there was moments where they were passing buildings and you could tell what was going on and hear people screaming. So that, there's also mention of male harems and desiring somebody they can't have, etc, etc. So it was really on the content rating. It was strange. It was like it was trying to be edgy yet at the same time stay clean, but it wasn't succeeding very well. Also for language, there was no actual known language used, but there was almost like a made-up swearing system, so you could tell that they were in a way cursing with their own made-up language. And to me, either it's like put language in it or don't put language in it. Making up your own language system is kind of strange. So I was disappointed with this book, but by all means, please put your comments and what you thought about the book in the description below, what you liked about the book. I would love to discuss it with you. And a quick insert here, I also read Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, the first book in the Percy Jackson series by Rook. I have finally jumped onto the Percy Jackson bandwagon. I had seen the movie, but I heard from a lot of book fans that the movie was atrocious compared to the book. So I thought I would read the book and see what I thought. And I agree, the book was so much better from the movie even after seeing the movie first. I enjoyed the book so much better. I loved the adventure. I gave it a solid 5-star rating. And for those of you that don't know, Percy Jackson follows a young boy who discovers he is a demigod. He is half god, half man. And with a bunch of chaotic sequences, bring him to Camp Half-Blood, where the children of the gods of Olympus live and train. He finds out he is the child of one of the big three. He is then sent on a quest to stop the biggest war in history. Again, like I said, light, fun read. Really enjoyed it. Have already picked up the second book from the library and not even going to bother seeing the second movie. So yes, I have finally jumped on the Percy Jackson bandwagon, and I highly recommend it. It is an excellent middle grade read. The next book for me was a reread, and that was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I am planning on marathoning and rereading these before the final movie comes out, as I would like to refresh myself about some of the detail within the books. I also plan on having a marathon of the 3 movies before the 4th one comes out. As I was rereading this, I forgot about how addicting this series is. I'm already halfway through Catching Fire as well, and I loved this series, and I love reading it again. It is just as enjoyable the second time as it was the first time, and it still stays at a solid 5-star rating. So including these 7 books and the 7 books I read for the BookTubeathon, I read 14 books in August and 3 books in September. So that is all I have for you guys today. I will be putting up a part 2 of all the comic books and graphic novels I read in between these novels, so stay tuned for that. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.